Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and today we got a good one for you. My buddy Rich Rebar from Sharp Football Analysis is joining us, my draft partner from a few weeks back. He was drafting at the 1 spot. I was at the 2 at Flex in New York. It was fun to spend some time together, and I said, Rich, I want to talk more betting with you, not just fantasy football. So he's here today to help us break down some of the pretenders. In case you missed it last week, our boy Pat Fitzmaurice was breaking down the contenders, the teams that we think have a lot of expectations in 2023. But there are some teams also that are pretending to have expectations, and these are the best because, Rich, what you get with these teams are some that are for real and some that are fugazi. And I think we're going to have to figure that out. Now, fugazi is a Brooklyn word, so I'm going to bring that out every now and then. But Rich, to me, this is where you can make a lot of money in the marketplace, and I can't think of anybody better to break it down. But what is the danger of some of these teams, too, that look good on paper but can't put it all together once the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So when I think about it from like a betting stance, I'm someone that's just this is my first year I can actually bet these futures in Ohio. So I have them legal. So I've been excited. I've been firing stuff all off season. It's fun. But I'm someone that inherently is more like a Joey Knish Rounders type of bettor anyways. I'm looking for soft lines. I'm looking for ROI, right? Like that's kind of how I play. And that's how I play fantasy football a bit too. So these teams that are kind of in purgatory, I'm glad that we're gonna be talking through some of these because some of these are lines that I haven't touched because of them kind of being kind of middling, right? Not really representing a lot of value. Although some of these I have bet early on. I know you have the Atlanta Falcons on here. There's a reason why that has gone up. I'd like to think it was because I was one of the people betting it, but a lot of other people with real money have been betting that as well.
I bet it a month and a half ago, and then Chris Raybon came on the show, and he was like, I'm picking the Falcons. And I was like, oh boy. And when all these smart people, and then I hear it come out of your mouth too, Rich, it just makes me feel better and better every time a person that I have great respect for and great intelligence in the industry keeps saying the same thing. It makes me feel better about my bets, and I want people to get in and make money with us. That's what we're trying to do here. But you're right, the numbers are starting to move too. We got to be careful, and we're going to break them all down for you right here. And again, don't forget to stay on top of all that line movement. Make sure you download the Betting Pros app. It's free. Of course, you can go premium. And if you want a chance to go premium and get the best tools on the planet, just drop a comment below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bettingpros. That's how you do it. And then you'll get access to the top rated player props. You get the custom analysis of your betting performance. Don't forget, you can follow people on here too. You can follow me at bettingpros.com/Joe. And of course, we're giving away that premium. So if you don't want to wait for the premium by subscribing to YouTube and dropping the comment below, you can go straight for it. Go right to the door, open it, and go get the premium at bettingpros.com/upgrade and start betting smarter and not harder. As always, we're going to start here with the win totals. We're going to talk a little division odds too, which is a little trickier for some of these pretending teams. This is a little harder sell. And then a little to make the playoffs and maybe some fun too on the future of the conferences in the Super Bowl. But let's run through these win totals. Let's start with the Falcons because we teased it.
Yeah.
The 7.5 is gone. It's no longer there. Joey Futures loved the 7.5. Joey Futures bet it. And I will stop talking about myself in the third person here. But we have 8.5 is the number now that we're dealing with. The over on Betting Pros right now, Rich, is -121. The under at +125. So for those people who weren't buying the Falcons, this is a perfect time to throw some shade against them. But I guess here's the question. I know the quarterback situation is uncertain. I know the Saints had a pretty good showing in their, first little output there this weekend where Derek Carr was playing and Michael Thomas was actually on the field. And so was Alvin Kamara. So interesting things going on. But what do you think of the Falcons in this number? Where are you standing with it now that it's 8.5?
Yeah, I mean, I was someone that already has it too. So, I'm not probably going to circle back and take it at 8.5, but I don't think that it's completely out. I think you probably are looking at, if you're looking at Falcons futures, you probably are looking more at division wins, make the playoffs, stuff like that is going to represent a lot more bang for your buck right now. But I still do think 9 wins is totally possible. They have our second easiest schedule. It's funny is that the Saints have our easiest schedule projected this season, and the Saints have a little bit more of a distance between the Falcons. Because they also have better rest edge than the Falcons. The Falcons actually have the 4th worst rest edge, even with them having a really easy schedule. They have one of the worst rest edges in the league. They actually don't They have 3 games with the road disadvantage, which isn't great. And then you talk about the quarterback play. The Falcons also are one of these teams too that they inherently play a style of football that they're going to just play a lot of close games too. So you might be at the risk of like a lot of variance, right? Like any team that wants to like run the football, not turn the ball over, and play these close games. Remember, even last year they played 13 one-score games. One of the highest in the league. So if you just have variance swing on the wrong direction, like you could run south, right? And this could be a 6-win team. This could be a 7-win team, and you don't get there. So I do think that the actual value in terms of bang for your buck is probably more looking at like division and them to make the playoffs in the NFC more so than this where it is right now.
I like that pivot. And whenever you have teams, especially in divisions that are a little soft, I mean, that's a better bet sometimes, because we saw last year, right? What did 9 wins won this division anyway, right? I believe, if memory serves, something horrible and horrific like that. So always keep that in mind. There's different ways to get in on teams if you like them, especially if the market has moved. The Cleveland Browns, this is a leap of faith here. Everybody has to take, Rich, because Deshaun Watson did not look good last year, but we have plenty of tape of Deshaun Watson looking like a top 5 quarterback in the league. They went out there and they made some additions to this roster. They acquired Elijah Moore, right? So here we are. The Cleveland Browns are sitting at 9.5. The over is at plus 110. The under is at minus 130. So it's already kind of telling you that they think the Cleveland Browns are just not something Vegas is buying too much right now, necessarily. Or actually, that I think the biggest question maybe in the NFL this season is, what Deshaun Watson are we going to get? So in your opinion, what Deshaun Watson are we going to get? And do you think that feeling is investable yet?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of value in this line. If you're over it, I am more on the positive end just because we haven't really seen a lot of players that were as good as Deshaun Watson was over like the opening 4 years of his career, just like be terrible. I've brought it up a few times here. Like, kind of go back to Dante Culpepper's like the last guy that was like really good and then just like stopped being good at quarterback.
Well, that was injury though, right? Wasn't that more with him? Yeah.
Yeah, he was older. He did have an ACL. I mean, Watson had ACL too. And then, Randy Moss left the team. So it's like we have to at least keep like some benefit of the doubt that maybe Deshaun Watson is still just like, we give him a little bit of a pass for the not basically playing football in 1.5 years. The Browns played like 2 awful weather games when he came back. The offensive line was kind of in flux. The Browns were 2-6 in 1-score games last year. Like, that's probably going to flip. They had the second worst fumble luck in the league. They were minus 4.6 fumbles recovered below expectation. They were 7th worst in field goal luck too. Like, those are all things that are probably going to regress positively. They also are a team that has like a big rest advantage this year. They don't play any teams coming off of a bye. They don't play any teams coming off of a Thursday game, which helps them. They do have a really, really tough opening schedule before their bye. And they're also a team that has an early bye, which also isn't loved. So I just don't see a lot of value in this line. I'm more optimistic on the Browns. If you like some of their longer stuff, like maybe their AFC odds or Super Bowl odds. But this is a brutal division, right?
It is.
It really is. The AFC North and the AFC East, like, these teams are going to beat the hell out of each other.
They are. And you also have good coaching too with Mike Tomlin, who, we can talk about how Pittsburgh kind of remade itself a little bit year over year. And we know what Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to be. And, or at least we have an expectation as long as the health is there. And the Ravens seem like a team that's refocused and ready to go. We talked a lot about them. If you want to get some of those, again, some takes on that, Fitz and I broke them down. You can go back and listen or watch on the YouTube channel to the Contenders version of this show. But let's stick with more pretenders here. The Green Bay Packers. I know there's kind of like this renewed optimism here of Jordan Love. Everything's going to be great. You know what? Maybe we're going to be the plucky team. Maybe we're going to be the team that's a little bit better than people think we are. The number is 7.5 for them. The over at minus 115, the under at plus 120. So once again, the faith not really with necessarily the Jordan Love situation there. But, there was kind of this dark cloud and this weird thing kind of hanging over with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, and it just seemed to hang over this organization. Do you think that with him gone, that there's this kind of renewed optimism around camp, around everybody, that, hey, you know what, fresh start, let's go and let's roll? Or do you think it's kind of a false narrative, because when you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback, all of a sudden you're going to downgrade in wins?
Yeah, I've actually been in on the Packers a lot. Like, people were in on the Falcons to a degree. I think because when you look at this division, they probably still have the best like 1 through 53 roster, right? Like
Right.
the concerns come with the transition of quarterback. But I mean, also Jordan Love's not a rookie. Like he's been with the organization for 2 years. I don't know if we can really quantify like what that means, but he does have some experience. He did look a lot better in he played a very small sample last year, so I don't want to go crazy with it, but he did look a lot better his second year than he did when we saw him in a small sample as a rookie. And I just think when you look at their roster, they have every offensive lineman that took a snap for them coming back this year. We know that they can have a good run game and play ball control because that's what LaFleur has done anyways. They've got probably the best defense in the division. I would say it's not even close. They do have the best defense in that division. They also don't play their opening 5 games. They don't play a single team that's in the top 8 in Super Bowl odds. They have our easiest ranked pass rushing schedule. So they're going to face like the softest amount of projected teams that can rush the passer, which I think helps them as well. I've already bet them their win total and their kind of division odd stuff. Obviously, I still think like the Lions win, but I think the Lions actually represent like one of the worst like divisional values and maybe are a little bit overvalued by the public. But I've been in on the Packers. I think they're a lot better like real life team than they're getting credit for.
I think you wait if you like the Lions and you let them get their doors blown off by KC in week 1, and then you go bet the Lions. I think that's what you do. If you really just be a little bit more patient, wait that one out, because I think people go, oh, wait a minute, maybe the Lions aren't as good as we thought they are. And they very well might be, but teams playing with expectations far better than playing the plucky underdog. It's a different situation there. It's interesting, too, because last year, Green Bay was actually 3-3 in this division, and they won 8 games. But you could write a script here where maybe they go 4-2 in this division here, potentially. So people forget that they really kind of struggled, even with Aaron Rodgers, to, outside of those gimme games against the Bears, we go to lock in those 2 wins. Not so much the case last year in terms of dominating that division. Let's do another one here. The Los Angeles Chargers. The annual Charger buzz, right, Rich? We've seen this a million times, and the Chargers always kind of fall short. They always find a way to Charger. The number here is pretty high. It's 9.5. The over at -115. The under at 9.5 at +120. So, look, the Chargers went in the draft. They got Quentin Johnson to kind of give them a little insurance. You saw Palmer play pretty well. But the big story last year was just not having those number 1 and number 2 wide receivers healthy for any extended period of time together. Now, you give yourself more insurance. You can hope for better health. But how do you see the Chargers and this 9.5 right now in a division, again, that's kind of in flux and changing? You have some change with the Raiders, obviously. And, you're looking around here and you have a Charger team that, may or may not be ready to compete with the big boys in the AFC. How do you see this 9.5?
Yeah, I still think the Chargers are probably being undervalued because of that, right? A little bit. Like people want to say same old Chargers. I mean, this team won 10 games last year in a season in which Justin Herbert, had a chest fracture, early in the season, then had a torn labrum. They played 20 total offensive snaps last year with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Corey Linsley, and Rashawn Slater on the field. And they still won 10 games, right? Like, I feel like that, everyone just like same old Chargers, something's going to happen to them. But I mean, this is still a team I believe that has like true upside. And maybe, potential to win the AFC upside. If this is a team that totally you could say Justin Herbert goes on a 3-game heater in the playoffs and they can win it if you get like a right draw, right? Like the kind of like the Bengals got a couple years ago, depending what you have to go through. Because in the AFC, like we all know, like these quarterbacks are all going to have to beat each other. Like you're going to have to go through someone in the AFC. So I still think the Chargers are one of the better teams. I think that obviously, the stigma has to eventually break, right? Like it has to. There's just no way like a team is.
I think so. I think Herbert's the guy to do it too. Like I do agree that over time it's going to be the guy. I don't know if it's this incarnation. I think a lot of it has to do, Rich, too, what you think of the Broncos. Like, do you think Sean Payton can pull this team up by the haunches and make them competitive again? Because if you do, I think that puts this number in a little bit of concern, this 9.5. I think I would be on the under if you think that. But what do you think of the Broncos in that sense?
Yeah, I'm out on the Broncos,
You're
man.
still out,
I think
okay.
They're
too far. You got to really, but it's going to take a couple years to pull them out of the muck is what you think.
Well, my problem with the Broncos is like who's going to get through to Russell Wilson, right? Because the defensive meta in the NFL has changed, right? We're seeing a lot less blitzing. We're seeing a lot more coverage, a lot more nickel dime on the field. NFL teams want you to have 8+ play drives, right? Matriculate down the field. We want you to have to earn your touchdowns. And Russ, every offense that Russell Wilson has been in, we keep blaming all the coordinators, right? Let Russ cook. But the offenses all end up looking the same because of the style of Russell Wilson plays. Like, he's a big game hunter. He wants to throw outside the numbers. He wants to throw vertical. He doesn't want to take these free passes, right? He doesn't want to throw the 4-yard check down. And in the way defenses are playing NFL, it's kind of he's falling into their hands. I mean, like I said, I go back to the 2021 sample when he missed that section of the Seahawks season and how different the Seahawks looked under Geno Smith. And it's like, I wish I would have factored that more into not only DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett that following season.
I think we all could say
football.
that, Rich, to be fair.
But
we all
also,
wish we had believed a little more in Geno. I know I didn't. I thought it would be fun, but I really wasn't buying into it.
Yeah, but also what it meant for Russ going to Denver, right? Like, we thought it would just be like the same thing. Let Russ cook. Russ is going to finally cook and all these things. And, obviously Nathaniel Hackett's going to fall on that sword. And I don't want to defend Nathaniel Hackett either and give him a hall pass. But Russ has to change his game. And is Sean Payton going to be the guy to do this? Like, we would hope so, right?
Well, if
like,
anyone can do it, Sean can. I mean, Sean's track record going back, as a quarterback coach. I mean, this guy's been in the league for so many years. He's worked with so many of the best, and his track record, speaks for itself there. Now, granted, as a head coach, when you have Drew Brees, it makes your life a little easier, I think. But people forget Drew Brees was kind of a castaway before he ended up in New Orleans. So a lot of people weren't buying into him necessarily. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. A couple more that we have here, the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. I want to take these as a duo here because it all depends on what you think of the Bills and if you think that the Dolphins and Jets are contenders or pretenders at this point. But I think you have to still call them pretenders until they otherwise show themselves. The Dolphins and the Jets are both at 9.5, kind of close here. So the Dolphins at the over at plus 105, the under minus 105. Same for the Jets here, 9.5, the over at minus 115, the under at plus 105. So you're getting plus money on the Jets to go over. I am not buying into, this is not a Hard Knocks thing for me. This is not an Aaron Rodgers. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is doing a really good job of reimagining his image on the way out of football so he can spin it off for the rest of his life. However, I keep buying the Jets defense, Rich. Defense is really good. I think they've got a good situation here where I think they're going to be slow out of the gate. So I like the weight on the Jets because I look at that schedule and I can see them going 2-5 in that schedule. And then eventually over time, maybe finishing 12-5. Like, I think they could go on that kind of a run when you see some of the teams they have later on the year if things start to click for them. So I like the Jets, but I'm waiting on this number. I want them to go into a better place first with more losses to start the season. How do you approach the Dolphins and the Jets? Because I am in on the Jets, and I think they have a chance to be a contender. What do you think?
I mean, it's really hard not to draw the corollary between what's the situation of Aaron Rodgers going to Jets and, Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers a couple years ago,
Or even Peyton Manning to the Denver Broncos. Go drop yourself in with a good defense and, take
but
your
even more
experience
so,
and win a Super Bowl.
Brady, you think like Brady that last year, the Patriots, like it felt like that whole season he had a foot out the door, right? Like, he felt like he was kind of checked out of the offensive system. He was frustrated with the surrounding talent. And it felt like we had a similar thing with Rodgers, right? Like you talked about the dark cloud kind of maybe going away from Green Bay. But I also think it's going to be similar to that Buccaneers team. So you remember that Super Bowl Buccaneers team, they kind of, they didn't start like necessarily slow, but they finished real hot. Like they were 7-5, and I think they won their last 8 games of the year. The Jets have an absolutely miserable like opening 6 games.
They've got to play the Eagles. They've got to play. Out of the gate,
they open Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Broncos, Eagles. So like, like you said, maybe there's a chance they're 2-4 or 3-3, and like people are like, oh, look at the hype that we placed on these guys.
That's when you pounce. I think if you like the Jets.
Yeah, I think that's when you bet them because things get a lot better after their Week 7 bye. They still play some good teams, but it significantly lightens up. And like you said, you're buying in on that defense, like that Bucs team. Like they're going to be able to figure this out along the way because the defense is that damn good. So I think that's what you say. I think the Jets definitely become a better bet like in season for sure when like some of the sheen kind of falls off the rose. The Dolphins are very tricky. So what's funny is these two teams are the inverse of what we talked about Saints Falcons. Yeah. These two teams play the 2 hardest schedules in the NFL for us. And the Dolphins are at 31st. They flipped. They play one of the hardest schedules as opposed to last year. They were 8-1 in 2 starts, but you kind of look at it and like they beat some real bad teams, and And people talk about the upside, like they had a 3-game stretch there where they went absolutely, nuclear. It was a 4-game stretch, I'm sorry, where they went absolutely nuclear against the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, and the Texans. And then immediately out of that, people were like, oh man, the Dolphins are for real. And do you remember immediately out of that, they faced the 49ers and got whopped. They faced the Chargers on Sunday Night Football and got whomped. And then they played a tight game against the Bills. But like they started to face like real opponents, and it wasn't as tight. You have the Tua injury stuff that kind of then comes into play later in the year. But it was like, how does Mike McDaniel calibrate what happened to him against those good defenses, right? Because those good defenses that took away the middle of the field and wanted to force Miami to throw deep and took away like all that rhythm stuff, like how does Mike McDaniel now calibrate when they have this really hard schedule now, like we talked about with the Jets? So I'm real curious on the Dolphins. They're a team like I haven't touched them. I got
no feel either. So that two for two
really
to everybody watching and listening. If you love the Dolphins this year, good on you. I can't get there. Rich seems to be struggling with it too. And I'll tell you the truth, I do like
they could
the
be really
Jets.
good. I mean, I love everything they've done. Like, dude, all their defensive additions are sensational. Like you add Vic Fangio. This is like one of the few teams in the NFL that actually has like good, like wall-to-wall linebacker play too. Like they don't have to live in sub-package defense. I mean, you add David Long, you already have Van Gink, you have Jerome Baker. Like these are studs. You've got Christian Wilkins, you've got Bradley Chubb. They have two of the best safeties in the NFL. Like this team is loaded on defense. I mean, I look at this AFC East, man. I wonder like how the hell any of these teams kind of get out of there, like, right? Like that's
why the Bills are just boring to me. Like the Bills been there, done that. I'm telling you, my plan is to wait, let the Jets get off to that slow start, let that number expand from plus 280 to win the division to probably, I don't know, plus 600. And then I get in, and then I watch and see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I could always double down if they start to get hot and that number starts to decrease. That's how you bet the futures market. It's like the stock market. You got to watch, get in at the right time, get out at the right time, and figure it all out. Let's play around with some division odds. Okay, so New Orleans is at plus 130 to win the NFC South. Atlanta is at plus 230. Who would you rather take, the New Orleans number or the Atlanta number? Plus 130 for New Orleans, plus 230 for Atlanta.
Yeah, I think that the Falcons are like, this is where you get like kind of the most value out of them. I still like the Saints still to win the division. I think that they get like tiebreakers because of they have, the rest advantage versus the Falcons in terms of that. But I think that there's value here for if you still like the Saints. But I mean, this is where I think you bet the Falcons if you do like them.
By the way, the Falcons number opened at plus 400. That's why I bet the Falcons. I just want to put that out there. We'll see.
The Falcons have gotten hammered. Like they're a team. Like maybe you do the same thing with the Falcons. Maybe you try to gain value in season, right? Like maybe like same thing if you like the Lions. Like you're probably gonna get better value in season than you are at this point of the off season with us only having like 2 weeks to go.
Well, like Jets and Miami, we'll do this one. We kind of hash it out already. To win the division, Jets right now, consensus number plus 270. It started out at plus 475. So obviously, the hype is real there. I wait for her to get back to the plus 475, but Miami's at plus 300. I think Rich kind of made this clear that, he's just not feeling the Miami number. So let's skip to Baltimore. Plus 225 is the open. Now it's plus 235 here with the Burrow injury. And again, a very tough division. I know the new offensive coordinator takes some time to put things together. What do you think of this rebuild Baltimore team? Are they contenders or pretenders?
Oh yeah, they're content. It's like if we don't like Harbaugh's not going to have a bad team, man. Like there's just this, and everything that they've done is positive. It sucks that they waited to pay their quarterback $260 million to kind of make all these transitions. Like you want to do that on a rookie contract, but they finally have at least like pushed the envelope. And no matter what you think of like Odell Beckham at this point, or you don't believe Bateman is going to stay healthy, or you don't think a rookie in Zay Flowers is going to make like a true year one impact.
I do. You know me. I'm buying the Zay Flowers everywhere. You know me, Richie.
But collectively, that wide receiver unit as a sum of parts is just so much better than what they put on the field. Also, I mean, you go back to last year. I mean, this team gave the Bengals 2 absolute hell games. Like, they have a shot to win that playoff game if Tyler Huntley doesn't try to jump from the 4-yard line over a pile. Like they might beat the Bengals in that game if that play doesn't happen. Like, so I definitely think there's value on the Ravens. We kind of talked about the Browns kind of being in that weird spot. So I have no problem, being in on the Ravens.
All right, let's do some rapid fire here to make the playoffs. The Jets to make the playoffs, yes, minus 130, no, plus 120. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, if you are against the Jets, like this is where your value against the Jets is, right?
Yeah.
Like if
No.
you are
Yeah.
against the Jets, like here's your value, right?
Again, I'm
Like
gonna
this
wait.
is
I'm gonna wait for that.
yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna just that 2-5 start. It's there. It's staring us in the face, folks. It is stare. I'm telling you, when we start in mid-October, that's when we're gonna get right back in there. Just be patient. What about Miami to make the playoffs? You get -105 on yes and no. So really, it's choose your
Yeah,
own
it's just
adventure.
dead even. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
true even like odds. I think that you're going to get better stuff in either direction, probably in season. I will say though, if you were on that short end, like you just think this division beats the hell out of each other. You value Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers as being the two better quarterbacks. Then this would be a spot where you would say, yeah, it's a little bit better here to take just the -105 now.
Speaking of beating the hell out of each other, let's talk about Pittsburgh. Go back to the AFC North. Yes to make the playoffs +140. No -155.
Yeah, I just think in the AFC still, like your margin here is just very thin. I know
Sure.
that Mike Tomlin, like he's got the alligator blood, right? I feel like if you want to bet an alligator blood team, you look at the Titans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers and saying that like their division and everything like gives them better chances
Sure,
and you
that
get
makes
better
sense.
odds. Like because like I mean Steelers like that you probably in the AFC one have to push double-digit wins. In like that division, like are even with them being better and expecting some regression for Kenny Pickett, like positive regression to the mean. I mean, it's still to bet them to have like double-digit wins and to have this upside. It's still really hard for me to get there.
All right, Chargers, even money on the yes, no +105.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, I'm in on that. Like I said, I
You're
think
in.
that they're still one of the better teams.
Okay, all right. So how about the New York Giants, the team that made the playoffs last year? This number was actually kind of surprising to me, to tell you the truth, Rich. To yes is +172, no -190. Like, I mean, I know the Giants were kind of a feel-good story last year, but this is pretty harsh shade there for the no that the Giants can't do it. Do you agree?
Oh, well, this got hammered. I hammered the Giants early before when we got their list of scheduled opponents. Then they got doubled down and they just got like an absolute miserable draw in terms of rest and like travel early in the season. They play so many road games early. This is a team that only won one division game last year. They were 8-4-1 in one score games. Like they were 26th in percentage of snaps led. The Giants are a tough case because I actually think they're going to be a better team than they were last year and win fewer games.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will say, well, that's unsuccessful. They just had so many high variance luck things go in their favor last year that probably don't happen. And they're just not as good as the Eagles and Cowboys at all. Like they're just from a roster stance, like, so it's hard for me. I hammered the Giants early. This is why this one lost all value. If you're going against the Giants, like this has gotten buried since it opened.
Cleveland Browns, the no to make the playoffs -120, the yes +115. So as you said before, you're kind of threading the needle in the AFC, especially in this division. So are you on the no side or just to stay away altogether?
I mean, if you're on like the positive side, there's some value here. Like I said, this is one where I just think that it's just middle. I'm not in love with anything here.
This is and these are the hard conversations we have to have with ourselves too, because these are the teams that I think are the most difficult, the ones in the middle of who they're going to be. And Seattle's kind of one of those teams too. We mentioned Geno before. Let's talk about it. To make the playoffs, yes, -120. So Vegas feels pretty confident right now that that's going to happen. The no at +104. Are you confident in Seattle's ability to get into the playoffs in 23?
I am. I think when you look at the NFC landscape there, I think they're positioned to be one of the better teams. I actually like them to tie in. You have like for potential long shot plays. I actually like Seattle at +1300 in the NFC too, like as a long play. You look at that because so the 49ers, like there's like some trepidation there. Like we know they have the second best odds in the NFC for the Super Bowl, but like there's some like fragility with the 49ers.
Absolutely.
The 49ers have the worst rest differential in the entire league this year. They have like a pretty rough opening schedule. And then what if like this quarterback situation is like a thing all year, right? Like what if it is like, like we can't just take 5 games from Brock Purdy and say like, this is who he is. Like, what if there is like some fragility with this quarterback situation and they have to deal with stuff? The offensive line also is not particularly as strong as it was on paper last year, especially when you're talking about just your anchor on your offensive line is pushing 40 years old. Like what if Trent Williams were to miss some time? This offensive line would then become like a pretty weak unit overall. Definitely faced on Kyle Shanahan, but I think there's what I'm getting at is I think that there's still value that creates value for the Seahawks. Also, I think the Seahawks, when you look at it, like they're probably going to take a step up defensively. They got nothing but young athletes defensively. Adding Jackson Smith and Jigba, this is a team that was already effective on offense. I think that there is some stability in Geno Smith, like rolling over what he's done, because not only do we have last year's sample, we have that 2021 sample of like he kind of gets the system, and you add a JSN. Like this is an offense that they might have the best 1 through 3 wide receiver core in the league on the field this
arguably
year.
So
if there's a chance.
Perfect segue, you laid it out. That's why you're such a pros pro. So looking at long shots for the NFC, Seattle plus the 1300, do you have one for the AFC?
Yeah, the AFC, I think the Chargers still having the 7th best odds in the AFC gives them value at plus 1300. I think here's where like the Browns maybe have their most value at like plus 1800, right? Like because you can turn that into something. I obviously don't. I think that it's warranted that their odds are there, but I mean, this is where you would get like your big payout, right? Like we're talking long shots. And then I also think in the NFC too, if you want to get real frisky, this is where you have like maybe you have the Falcons at plus 2,800 and the Bears at plus 3,000. If you want to just get real frisky. You want to get real loose.
That's a little fast and loose for me. So for me, AFC.
I mean, listen, I got $100 to light on fire for that.
Of course we do. AFC for me, plus 1,000 the Jets right now. But again, I'm going to wait on that number in the AFC. So I'm not betting that. I think you can get an even better one in 6 weeks. So just wait. The NFC for me is the Cowboys, which again, it's not a huge long shot, but plus 650 is another one too, where I feel like if you're looking around the landscape, who plays good defense, if Dak can, kind of get back on track and protect the football a little bit better, maybe the best, challenger for the Eagles, who I do already have heavy investments in to go back to the Super Bowl because they're the Eagles and they look fantastic, is maybe from inside the house. Maybe it is the Dallas Cowboys. And then again, the Jets right now plus 1,800 to win the Super Bowl. Do you have a long shot for the Super Bowl you like to? Want to throw that out there before we call it a day?
So I like the Cowboys for a Super Bowl. Obviously I like them at plus 1,400. Obviously I like the NFC team, right? Like I like that in a lot of these long shots, the NFC side of the equation. Getting through the NFC playoffs is going to be a lot different than getting through the AFC playoffs.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys, man, their roster is so loaded, and they're almost like have like the Charger stigma. Like people are always going to say, well, Dak Prescott is going to do something in the playoffs. Like that's going to be, but like this roster is so good. This defense is gnarly.
It is
like
really
absolutely
good.
nasty.
And Parsons is going to win DPOY this year, my friends. Lock it in.
And they actually have a little bit better draw than the Eagles do because of obviously how both the seasons went, and it was a bummer we didn't actually see last year the Cowboys and the Eagles actually play a heads up game because Dak didn't play in the first game and then Hurts didn't play in the second game. So like I'm excited. I'm excited to finally get to see them play like at full strength because the Dak Minshew game was fun as hell. I can imagine what it would have been if Hurts was playing. So. Yeah. I'm excited to see it, but I do like the Cowboys there.
Circle those on your calendar. I like the Cowboys too. Again, the defense, that's what I keep coming back to. I'm looking for somebody who can defensively stand up to the Eagles, and I keep landing on Dallas. We could keep you all day, but again, that's not fair to you. Follow him on Twitter, Rich Rebar, at Lord Reebs, Reebs. Check out all his amazing work at Sharp Football Analysis. Again, Warren Sharp and that whole team over there doing amazing work every year, whether it be fantasy stuff, whether it be wagering stuff. I mean, really, it's the best there is, and I got to work a little bit with Warren last year. And don't forget, make sure you download the BettingPros app if you haven't already. Make sure you create your account there, sync all of your sports books. That way you can go make the best choices you can. We lay out all the odds in all the different houses. You can find the best ones for whatever you want to bet. You can stay on top of things too with the app, so you get the notifications when there's line movement on some of these things that you're interested in. You can set those notifications. Don't forget, you can go premium at bettingpros.com/upgrade or drop a comment below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and you might win a freebie one of it anyway. That way you can bet smarter, not harder all season long this NFL year. Great stuff as always. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Rich Rebar, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.